Hello there, and welcome to Corey Loses, where today we're going to be doing the first installment of our Modding 101 series in quite some time. We are going to be talking about how to make a map for Star Wars Empire at War today using the Empire at War or Forces of Corruption terrain editor. I have been joined in my lovely Discord recording channel here by the person who does basically all the mapping for Thrawn's Revenge and Fall of the Republic, the Empire at War expanded family of mods right now, Rogue. Rogue? Rogue? Rogue?
He's doing that thing.
I thought he said he was here. Oops. Uh, okay, Rogue's here, but also Nolan. That was Nolan. But yeah, so we are going to be talking about all the stuff that goes into an Empire at War mods, or an Empire at War map, rather. So we're going to talk a bit about Skirmish, but mostly focus on Galactic Conquest maps. Jack should be joining us in a little bit. But Rogue and I have tried to prepare a few main talking points to get people a broad idea of what goes into it and what we don't want to spend too long on any one thing, but you should have an idea by the end of the stream, which should hopefully be about an hour, of all of the parts of it. We'll tell you all the different parts and then give some examples. So I guess the first thing is the map editor itself. I decided I'm going to do a different video on how to actually install the map editor because there's some weirdness with it. So there's the Empire War Forces of Corruption map editors. They're different things. One's for Empire War, one's for Forces of Corruption. Obviously, you'd want the Forces of Corruption one now. And there's also a patch you need to get to work with Steam, but it also does a thing where if you load the map editor, it'll delete all shaders and TGA files, which is annoying to work with when you're trying to work with mods, especially. If you're working with just a base game, then you shouldn't have any issues. So that's what we suggest doing to get familiar with it until I can get that video up. But we thought it would probably not be worth taking the extra 10 to 15 minutes of explaining that. But we'll open a new land map here so you can see generally what that looks like. And we'll try to answer some questions if there's any in the chat as well as we go here. But again, we want to keep it relatively close to an hour when Rogue is done buying vacuums. And so the first thing you'll see when you try to make a map, I guess, is new land or new space. But for a land map, it'll ask for the map type. So you got temperate, Arctic, desert, forest, swamp, volcanic, urban, space. This is largely going to be about the type of terrain the game thinks the planet has. It determines some smaller stuff like the minimap color as well. So an urban map, you get the gray minimap. On forest maps, it's green. And that's a big part of how that's determined. Generally for multiplayer, you're going to want to set faction owner to branched, or for single player rather. And then player mode single player, map levels to 5, map name. We usually leave this blank for Galactic Conquest maps, which is going to be our main focus for today. And then in planet name, this also is less important for Galactic Conquest. We put it in just for documentation purposes. But in Skirmish, this is where the game figures out where to pull the XML information from. So it'll look for an XML entry with that planet name. And for Skirmish, it'll put like the planet text, history, all that stuff. That'll be what it loads for the loading screen. Then you have the terrain dimensions. In the base Empire at War, I'm going to die. In the base Empire at War, generally maps were 5x5 patches. In Forces of Corruption, a lot of the maps they added were a lot bigger.
Hypori, for example.
Yeah, and Munilinst was 10x10, I believe. So we're going to look at some examples. Rogue, I know the video is about 40 seconds delayed, but you shouldn't necessarily need to see too much there. But yeah, so
Okay.
this is where you determine the size. We're going to stick with 5x5. Well, there's a few example maps we have that we're going to go through first, but 5x5, the bounding area, this determines where the yellow line is. But like I said, Rogue has made a tutorial map for this stream where he took one of the existing maps in the mod. Thank you, Alderman, for the $5 donation. Don't die, Corey. That's good advice. I can't make any promises. But yeah, so Rogue took a map that we use in the mod. You may recognize this if you've played either the Empire or Expanded mods. And he made some, he broke it a bit so that we could fix it for the stream.
It feels weird going backwards.
So yeah, this is the first thing I guess we'll do is go into that map properties tab. You can see he moved the yellow line over here, and again, this is what's determining the playable area. You can't do anything outside of that yellow line, so you want to do map properties, and I believe it's the left bound, where he set it to about 1300, and we want it to be at about 300. So that's what you got there. If you press the space bar in the map editor, that'll give you the in-game camera so you can see what everything is going to look like in-game. So it gives you the camera angle, it gives you the height for the most part. And it makes it a lot easier to see what you're doing with the edge of the map, because the reason for the area outside the map is obviously for the camera, so that there's some non-playable area where you can put some props and make it look like it's not just a floating square in the middle of space, which is what it actually is, and then the sky dome out there. But yeah, so I guess the next thing would be talking about sort of the planning phases. If you want to talk a little bit about your opening setup phase, I guess. And sorry, before you do that, I will say that part of why we are doing this stream is because Rogue is lonely on the team. He wants more people to join and do maps with him. So if you want to help Rogue not be lonely and you learn how to do maps from this stream and practice a bit, and you would like to make maps for Empire or Expanded or a different mod if you like other mods and not this mod, I'm sure they'd appreciate it as well, but join this one.
Editing maps yourself, editing current maps that we have in the mod or vanilla maps. You can do that too.
Yeah.
Just for your own pleasure.
Or, again, you can do it for us. But Rogue, go ahead.
Well, it's 1 second. It really starts out by having an idea. You can always start off with a flat map and just be creative and work from there. If you have an idea of a planet you've seen before or read about before, Star Wars wise, or even any game, recreating it, it's a good idea to kind of have an idea of what you want to make, and that's probably where you start.
Yeah, so if you're kind of in that phase, one thing you can do is to plan out the sort of biomes and terrain for whatever map you're making is you could just go into the new map. I would like to place an ATTE or an ATAT and some sort of soldier just to get an idea of what the scale is going to be. So I'll just do that here, and we'll head back to the tutorial map in a second. But let's find a vehicle that works, because we are in the Fall of the Republic map files, right, or unit files right now. Ground infantry, got an ARC trooper, ground vehicle. Let's get an A6 Juggernaut, because that's gigantic. And this will help you kind of know what size you want your map to be. So for
even
this,
placing something like a factory, like an advanced vehicle factory, that's probably the biggest prop in every map.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Well, the way the bases are actually set up when you build your your structures on the galactic map is each one is placed at a marker on the map, and the model that Petroglyph used for the marker for the in-base special structure positions, but you need to have however many you intend the planet to have maximum. They use the advanced vehicle factory because it is the largest, and if you just lay out somewhere you want the base to be, and when you're building around it, you can do that. That's another good way to do it, yeah.
Yeah, you don't want your base area to be too large or too small. It's just when you're trying to fit in, even though you see in game that I know we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves here, but even when you in game when you see that you've got only 3 structures you can use build, I still have to place 8 in the map. That way as well you can move your structures around. I think it's called structure slots.
Yep.
Yeah.
Most of the maps have more structure slots than the planet allows, that the player has some level of freedom in their setup.
So, like Bill Bringy will have 2 structures in the galactic map, but I've got to place 8 or 10 to give different options to where to place it. Once we get the map previews working correctly.
All right, Inertial just messaged me and said the pop-up windows aren't showing properly, so I'll just quickly show again what that all looked like. This is the width and patches, playable area, bound size, map name or map type, when we set up the map initially. So I'll show it again quickly in the tutorial map when we go back there. But yeah, so sorry about that. But yeah, to get back to the layout thing, to kind of rough out the map, you can do it this way. One helpful thing that the game does have is you can load your texture palettes here. So if you go into the textures tab, when you're just in the setup phase here, load, and you'll go to corruption, data, material sets, and then there's a bunch of default ones set up by the game. So you can load in the temperate texture set, and there's a bunch of textures that are useful for that type of map, which we'll be getting into the way texturing works and the importance of all that later. But you can do that, and then if you want to load in more textures, you can just go to a blank spot on the square, texture path none, and then you can find whatever texture you want. There are some that are obviously meant for environments. Those usually start with W underscore, then the planet type, and then whatever other texture name. But you can look through, you can put whatever you want. So like we can just take this crate texture if we really wanted to and paint away on the ground. But the important thing that we're doing here though is kind of laying out what we would want the map to look like. So you can just scale up the brush a little bit and kind of rough out. Say I wanted there to be some mountains behind the base. Even if this isn't what the exact terrain is going to look like, this can give you a good idea of what you're going to be working with later. And thank you again, Alduin. I know in the base game you can move buildings in the galactic map by doing a base over preview. Does that mean you have to edit every building to make sure it isn't broken? Well, that's done with some stuff that's extracted from the map in the end stages that Jacked usually does for the mod now. But sorry, what's next, Rogue?
I was going to add to that. When it comes to texturing, I typically, personally, I don't texture anything until most of the terraforming is done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can do basically what I was just doing there, but instead doing it with height. So both kind of get the same thing across, where really the first phases are just getting what you want the map layout to look like. But what Rogue is talking about here, there is this second tab, height. There are a few different, by broken I mean facing the wrong way or something. Yeah, so you want to make sure that your buildings for structure markers are all facing the right direction. And Rogue went through and helpfully deleted them all from this map so that we would have to fix it ourselves, but I am going to do the left bound thing again so you can see what I actually did there. There you go. But yeah, so with height, you get a few different brushes you can work with as well. There's the Additive Brush, which does what you'd expect. It's your main terrain deforming thing. You can set the radius to whatever you want. You can make it bigger. You can make it more intense, and then it'll make spiky bits very quickly. Smooth weight, this will make it less spiky, but still going up fast enough that it doesn't really change anything. There's the level code brush, which brings it to a specific level on the terrain, which this is a mountain, so even positive values are lower. Or, yeah. But this is good, especially for urban maps or if you're making flat concrete areas. But you can lay out your whole map using those kinds of brushes first and then get to the texturing, as Rogue's saying. The rest of these are simply for having a different shape to it. So you can have the additive code brush, but it's a square with the big square brush there. Passability is solely for texturing.
I don't think I've ever used that.
Yeah, I've never really used it either, because usually if you're doing that, you want a level surface. So
And when it comes to that, like if you want to do an urban map with different heights, there's always the and we can get to it in a different video. You can create your own map, height map.
mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's what Rogue's talking about is this little guy over here. So there's the height settings, the water table settings, which we're actually going to get in a second, and then the height map, which you can make. So this image you're seeing right here is the map editor's representation as a 2D image of all the terrain on the map. So if you wanted to do this in, say, Photoshop, you'd be able to do that just as a grayscale image, and then you'd be able to import it into the map editor, and you'd be able to set the min and max height for the map. Darker is lower, brighter is higher, and you'd be able to just hit recompute height map, and it would turn into, like, it would do all that terrain for you. That's usually used less for temperate style stuff. Usually you'd want to use that for a city style map that's a lot easier to draw. And the best part about it is that you can use like a gradient tool in Photoshop to make a nice smooth, what is that, ramp is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're stuck doing a leveling code brush and going up by specific increments, and it's hell. It's not impossible. It's just the less efficient way to do it.
Can you use the smooth brush between that for bridging the gap between two heights?
I don't think so. No.
Okay, just asking because that's what you can use smooth brush other programs for. So figured I'd ask.
Yeah, usually what I end up having to do for ramps, when I'm not using a height map, it likes auto saving a lot, so that's what this is. You end up finding the minimum value, so like the flat value of wherever you're doing it, and the value of whatever you're going up to, and then trying to do it with like a radius 10 brush, overlapping a little bit with a high smooth weight, and trying to level it out that way. We actually had someone on the team, Kwio Jin, who did a lot of urban maps and did all of them by hand. He'd actually calculate everything about the map first, because I think he was like either a math teacher or did something with math in university. And I don't recommend doing that. It doesn't sound fun.
It would take forever.
Yeah. Like that's how we did the Coruscant map with all those ramps. Those were all done by hand. And that was kind of insane. We're in the FOC file. Should you install the map editor and the patch too? Haven't been able to figure that out. Just to the root Forces of Corruption folder generally, but I'm going to do a whole video about that and installing it to mods as well. You don't want to get, because there's some issues that it has that I touched on a little bit earlier. But yeah, so the last thing on this tab that we'll talk about quickly is the water table height. So that is the water table height. That is where the water goes. So you could see Rogue lowered it below, and we can just raise that to whatever we want here. If we want to have the whole map underwater, we can.
I
But
believe it was set to 0 originally.
yeah, that's, I believe, the default value as well as 0 or -1.
I think it's 0. Yeah.
Yeah, you get one plane of water naturally, which is lovely. You can also change this in the water tab, so maybe we'll just go there first. But we can set that to 0, and we're probably going to want to lower that because we need to fix these textures. We need some sort of riverbank texture and gravel and all that. But let's do that then. So you can also see, if you look down here in the circle, there's some helpful information that the map editor likes to give you. So you can see the X and Y coordinates of your mouse, and also the height, and just as helpfully, the texture name of what you're hovering over at the moment. So most of this river is W_rivrock00, which we can find in here. But let's say we, for whatever reason, had the volcanic set of textures open on this, which would replace everything because it's done by the index. But let's say that is what we were doing, and we wanted the river rock texture, which isn't part of this one. We go to W_riv rock. There it is. And we'd be able to just paint that back in that way. But yeah, so we're just going to load default temperate, which probably was edited for this, but yeah. So I'll just reload it.
Yeah, a few things were brought in from that wasn't the original temperate template. Yeah. But like you said, with loading the whole new texture set, I've taken this map in particular and made a desert map as well with the same, just a few different changes. So you can't quite tell that I'm cheating. But when you have 350 planets, you really don't want to make 350 maps by yourself. Yeah. By the way, this is why we're here.
And this is what I was talking about. There's like 3 seconds on my Discord. This is what I was talking about with one of the issues with the map editor. It deletes all the shader files and all the TGA files. Luckily, we control the mod through GitHub, so whenever I launch it, I can just discard all the changes to get them all back. But now we're back where we were, and we've got the river rock. Go ahead.
If you're not using GitHub, you're just using the map editor yourself, just make another folder to back up the TGA files and copy them back over to replace the MT command bar. Otherwise, your UI will look all messed up when you start up.
Yeah, I'll probably cover different ways to get around that in the installation tutorial video, but the big one is going to be the TGA files for icons. A lot of mods also do use TGA files because they compress better than the DDS files, which is the normal or the usual file format. And so that gets that river back. I'm just going to make sure that... Did you change any other river parts? I don't think so.
No.
All right, so we can... Now that we've done some successful texturing of that river back to where it should be, we're going to set the water height back to where it should be. Does every team member get to stream? We're trying to keep it as short as possible, Terrible, so we're trying to stay away from the normal, like, 16 of us in a call. Right now it's just the mappers on the team, or people who map at least for other games too. No one gets grandfathered in that way, with Rogue's eventual attempt to convert him, but we'll see how that goes.
Tried and failed.
So for the map, or so for the water settings, you've got a few other things you can do. I'm gonna change the nature settings. We'll get to that later, but
And this
I'm
is
gonna go for
also
something
how
a bit brighter.
you would make ice or lava.
Yeah. To do that, you'd go to the render mode, water. You can do none if you really want. But this will actually, even though it's changing the render mode, there will still be water in places. So if you have something set to like passability water, I'm pretty sure the units would still hover over the regular height, which was weird. But yeah, so if you do ice, that's how you do it. If you do lava, so lava, that's how you
for
do it.
like
Ice, you do that.
specific frozen body of water ice, because there's normal
Yeah.
ice textures for terrain.
Yeah.
For just normal passability of like a glacier or something.
Yeah, and you change the texture that way. Like you wouldn't use a water texture here, like for the lava crust and crust bump. You wouldn't use a water texture for that. Like you wouldn't use W water 16. You'd load a different lava texture, and you'd also be able to change the sky color, which affects the water rendering. You can change the color of the water directly. You can see if you want to go for like a slimy polluted planet and you want to get a nice hut green in there. If you want to go for a nice polluted planet and get a nice slimy Hapen purple in there. If you want to go for a nice polluted planet and get a nice Maldrude red in there. If you want to go for a nice polluted planet, you can get a nice... no, that is a nice gray in there. I'm usually not a fan of gray water. If you want to change this unused value, you can. You actually can't. It's unused. I thought you could still change it. You can't. But this is also where you change like the scale of the water textures. You can adjust that to whatever works for whatever you're doing. Tilt angle, that just changes the direction. So if you're having a beach that's oriented one way, you might want to change the way it looks relative to the shore. You can change the velocity, so how fast the water is going to be going. The direction is also kind of same idea with the tilt angle if you're doing a beach and you want the water flowing one way or the other. The unfortunate thing is you can't make like direct rivers. So stuff like these waterfalls are all done through particles. And if you wanted to have a nice polluted planet, you'd have to make different water particles because there's only the one for the waterfall there. And there's not really a correct value for all these that we can give you. I know for a lot of tutorials, people will look for that kind of thing. But it's really just find what you're trying to do, find what works for what you're doing. And anything else to add on water, guys?
The waterfall took 2 hours to make.
Yeah, I guess I'll
And
go...
doing any color variants would require another ALO file and another coded prop.
Yeah. There used to be... So, I wonder if I can get that open. So... The Empire at War devs, I won't go over to the meme yet. The Empire at War devs had a slightly more complicated version of the map editor. You can see some tabs here, decal or decal, depending on what you prefer. Tracks, animation, cinematic, stuff that we can't access. It would be really cool if we could access it, but
yes,
we can't. Do you remember the name of that map? Oh, I guess it wouldn't be in... mods, source, data, art, maps, MP, land. It's Corellia, right? Is that the one with the river?
I think so. Yeah.
No. Does Mandalore have it in those giant floaty things? I think those are water paths.
Yes, they are.
Planet, MP land, Mandalore. So yeah, you only get one water height to work with. You can do rivers this way, like on this map with just the regular water features. But you may notice from some other maps from the base game, like Mandalore, this here. You can do this with the plane animation if you want. But it's in terms of just the paths. Naboo has one as well. It has like an actual waterfall, I think. Partially using the particles, partially using that sort of stuff. But unfortunately, you can't make those yourself. They're all, unless you make like a map-specific prop and plane that's animated properly, you can't do this kind of stuff. We just get the pleb version of the map editor. Dantooine skirmish, right?
Yeah.
So that's the tutorial part on what you can't do in the map editor.
There's a lot you can't do.
But you can still make some nice stuff with what you can do.
Sure, that's true. That's true.
Speaking of stuff you can do,
And as they said, you could easily make an animated plane texture with certain sizes and then just copy and paste it into inset basins. But you can't do any waterfalls or anything in that style.
yeah, that requires certain other skill sets that are beyond the scope of the tutorial.
Cheating to get around editor limitations is a trick of modding that goes back forever.
Yeah, but we also we're trying to show people how to make their own stuff here. They don't
Mhm.
necessarily have an art department behind them that knows how to do some of that stuff already. So we don't want to overpromise.
I think the next step would be setting up strategic props, turrets, bunkers, things like that.
And making sure passability is good.
Yes, and there is some possibility that is not correct right now.
All right. Should we first texture the landing zone again and show more of how the blending works? I don't want to do like everything, but just like you don't want to just make the map leave a plain texture because it's very obvious. Like it wouldn't look natural that way. You can see kind of the difference there. These are a bunch of different textures. This brush is way too big. You can see we have temp rock over there. We have just a dirt path over this way. So you don't want to have like giant patches of something that looks unnatural, but you kind of just want to even just look at pictures of real stuff. Or you know what? You can go outside. I never considered that before. You could actually literally go outside and look at what the world looks like and try to
Never thought about
recreate that. It's a place, guys. But yeah, so you may also notice that where's the dirt? Forest dirt, okay. That's not quite the same one, but you want to vary it up a little bit anyways. So usually you'll rough it out. You'll do a few passes on textures like that. So even if you did like a shitty path that way, you'd go back through and you'd layer it a bit. Watch some Bob Ross videos as well. But this is kind of just the process you'll go through with that.
It's definitely a painting tutorial as well.
Yeah. Like just try to think about, again, the scale of what you're going to be looking at if you're zoomed in. You can press that helpful little space bar. You can see these areas look a lot more natural. You have on top of the texturing, there's the trees. There's also these grass props, which I guess we should go to in a second. And you can see where there's like just little rock props that are thrown in on the riverbanks with some extra. There's a fern over on this one, and usually you'll see some like extra texturing around some of those props. So it all kind of mixes in together. You do want to be careful with this one though, because this is going to be where our attacker entry position is, and the reinforcement cap point thing. +5 cap.
It's good to avoid sticking anything that obstructs paving in the general area of the entry positions.
Yeah, some props have.
Otherwise, you end up with isolated infantry getting screwed over or stuck.
Some props, and I'm not sure why they have some passability and some props don't. But if you
I believe it's an obstacle tag.
Okay,
yeah. Because trees don't. You can place as many trees as you want.
There are some trees that are obstacles. Like you can do this one. It's got obstacle helpfully after the name. But you can just place a few trees that way. But we're in the objects tab now, down to prop forest. It's all organized in a way that makes sense. But there's also these prop ground covers. These are basically little alpha planes with little grass details on it, and you just slop them down somewhere. They're really good for grass, but they're also good if you want to spam a lot of them for lag. So make sure you place as many as you can everywhere.
It's a it's a fun little tool to create a lot of lag.
Yeah, and there's some that have like pretty flowers, so you can look at the pretty flowers while it's lagging. We can, maybe this is the home of a dead civilization and there's a ruin there, but because there's a ruin there, maybe we'll want to texture a little bit around that, but also maybe because there's a landing zone there, we don't want that there at all, so we can delete it. But let's go into passability for that.
You did make a good point though. It's really to pass the time, because it does take a while to get a map going and at least good enough to throw into a mod. Just create little stories, just like you said with the ruins.
Yeah,
Just
think about, why are people here? Why are we fighting over this rock?
give a reason why the rock is there.
Yeah, if you if you're making a map for the game and every prop doesn't have a story, then you're doing it wrong. Everything. There should be a reason that some bird like shit a seed there for the tree to grow.
Right. There's one tree on the screen right now that's tilted just a little bit because it just decided to be that way.
Yeah. Like, it's every frame a painting.
There is a
YouTube.com
point of
/
going
every frame a painting.
overboard,
What's
which
that?
is stacking individual. There's a point of going overboard with the props too that you want to avoid. Like, don't waste time stacking individual supplies in a crate. That gets you yelled at by your mod team later.
Maybe if they don't like fun. Do what makes you happy. That's what mapping is all about. But here we're on passability. And you can see that Rogue did a lot of extra stuff with all this, because this is all this rock face stuff. These are props that are arranged with the ferns on them, with the trees, with the I'm trying to grab, there we go, this guy. Those cliff faces that he arranged the particles on for the waterfalls. This is all done with props, and then all these are different props. This is a giant gate that he used as kind of the support. There's the landing pad is a different prop there. These are all different things stuck together. So be creative with your props. That's always something Rogue has been really good at, is combining the props to accomplish goals that existing props don't necessarily do on their own. So don't be locked in by that.
It's a good way to put it.
But yeah, so passability. There are a few passability types. There's clear, steep, water, infantry only, and impassable. If it should be impossible to get over something, then mark it as impassable. And that's the white one right there. Steep means that stuff can fly over it. So if you wanted stuff to be able to fly over this, you could mark it as steep.
And that's very important too, because if you've got a landing zone, or at least an initial attacking where you first entered into the map, and you've got mountains around you, you don't really want to have something fly over and immediately attack a defending base. So you kind of want an impassable zone around it instead of steep.
Yeah, so think about the gameplay stuff of what you're doing. And also keep in mind that steep will mean that jetpack infantry can fly on it, and that can get messy as well. But the other passability types we have here, we have water, which means that like hover units can hover over it. So you can mark this as water if you wanted, or you can make the choice to mark it as steep, which I believe is what this map defaults to. But you can do a few different things that way. Like you can have ways that only hovering vehicles can get into a base by having like a water access way in the back. And I believe the Honegger map in base game has a pretty good example of that.
Karita does also, I think.
Krita.
Yeah.
But you want to make sure that you are texturing it in a way that stuff will make sense. Because if you have like even just a small part of this here clear.
And to clarify on the jetpack infantry, with using the ability, they try to get point to point, but
Yeah.
if you control them while they're flying, you can make them do some pretty messy
Yeah, it's very
paving
Empire
stuff.
War. But over here, you could end up with like because of this little green section, you could end up with an AT-AT that's like drinking out of the water, horizontal. But so passability can be a finicky thing. It usually takes some testing before you know exactly what you're getting out of it.
There's a good example of finickiness on the co-op map when you land in that that area. What was it? It's like a
in the canyon. Yeah.
Yeah, so the AI, like you won't do it, but you can land whatever you want on that sheer cliff face.
Mm-hmm.
But there's nothing really that we can do about it aside from a good hour of redoing that whole area. But
Pick your battles.
Yeah, exactly.
The other interesting one is infantry. Well, there's only 5 to begin with, but this one is particularly interesting because the map is auto-saving. So how's everyone's day while we're auto-saving here? Oh, we're good.
Not too bad.
But let's say you wanted to leave this whole area passable, but because these are like dense trees, this is somewhere that only a group of infantry can go through. And they'll still walk like physically through the trees, but as a gameplay effect, it could be cool. So like this is infantry only. And you can make some other paths with that. But yeah. So that's just the kind of stuff that's possible there.
You don't want a large infantry only area because AI gets a little funky with that. So you don't want half of the map, if you're doing an urban map, be infantry only. Even though it would be cool, it won't work out correctly.
Steven, we're talking about how to make specifically GC maps, but the principles generally apply everywhere.
Yeah, you can convert this entire map here into a multiplayer map just by switching out markers and building.
So I guess that gets to hello there. So we should go back into right now. It's Obi-Wan saying there, Grievous. Then we turn back to textures. Oh wait, we're already on textures. We turn back to additive. Hello there.
Bob's not here to sigh.
That was Rogue. It's fine.
I get one. Just one.
But yeah, so this concrete area that you just saw me repaint, it's a good time to talk about surface types. So when you're in the texture settings, each little block can have additional properties. So here, surface type, we have concrete. You can change the diffuse color as well. So if you wanted a nice polluted planet, you can go for some blue there. If you had, say instead of that, you wanted a nice polluted planet, you could actually change it to brown. But if conversely, you wanted a nice polluted planet, you could change it to green. Or you could just leave it as the default color. But you can also use this to mark hard edge or not. So you can see this is more blended. This, it fills that polygon with the texture. So you can determine whether you want to do that based on what you're going to be using the texture for. You can actually, you'll sometimes have 2 copies of the same texture. Hey there, Cad. Had a nice day fighting EW's XML definitions, only to forget that it wanted to give Pox some feedback. Pox loves feedback, especially CAD feedback. But yeah, so you can set the surface type. The concrete is obviously concrete, but if we go over here, this rock concrete probably works for that as well. For grass, surface type is grass, and this affects the kind of like surface effect that goes on it when stuff is walking on it. So you'll notice in some maps, units will be walking on a concrete surface, but they'll still send out dust puffs or dirt puffs, and that's just because that's kind of set wrong.
Yeah, and a lot of maps are like that. It's just getting around to getting them done, or just noticing them in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But it shouldn't really break your reality seeing footprints.
But if it does, that's how it gets fixed.
Sure. Yeah.
The surface type also plays a role in the projectile terrain hit models for like when the projectiles hit the terrain and they create the particle effect that's determined by that for different types. You get like the dirt puffs or the concrete shatters, or just worth a mention.
And then you can also set the scale of the texture. So we'll find over here. You can see the scale on this texture is set really small. I'm not sure which one that is, but we'll probably just paint over it differently. So if we wanted to emulate that and or Rocco 1, we'll use that as kind of the base to replace.
That's a good thing to remember as well. A lot of all the textures are set at, I think, 210 scale, and I typically reduce them just maybe to at least 180, a little lower, depending on what I'm working on. Because as you can see, in if it's set up to be small like that, there's a lot of I forget what it's called.
Tiling, very obvious tiling. So again, you just want to mix in some different textures depending on what you're going for, to give some idea of transitions between different. Okay, that is gigantic leaves. We don't want that. But just to mix in different stuff, make it seem a bit more natural than having one giant clearly tiling section. And you'll probably, with any given thing, have a few attempts at finding what textures you want to mix, but after you've done like a mountain like this, you'll note that you want to apply it the same 3 or 4 textures with other mountains on the same map. Like again, there's no one fixed way to do it. It's really just determining map by map what you're trying to do and applying that in whatever way makes sense for what it is. So like you can see over here, there's a really mossy section of the wall. And then you've got the rocky sections, you got some grass paths going up. So it's not like you don't really want to get one mountain texture, dirt rock here, really and be like, yeah, now this is my mountain. You want to mix it up a bit because that's where you end up with the more realistic textures.
There's a great grass rock texture that I use to blend it all in.
Yeah, I think that's this one. And again, you can change the diffuse on... Oops, I fucked up the scale there. Whatever. You can change the diffuse color to whatever you want for that particular map. So if a texture looks slightly wrong for a map, you can fiddle with that and get it to blend a little bit better with whatever you're doing with it. And you can, I think, add custom colors for that map, and I believe that'll stay consistent for loading and saving the map. But that's probably all we'll get into with that kind of texturing right now. Have you guys had any issues with map software crashing on save recently? We've been trying to help Radical Edward with that. I think a few of us have messaged him. I suggested he try a VM box for it, or a virtual machine for it. But yeah, so
the situation is
weird.
Very interesting.
But yeah, well, a few of us have been trying to help with that. I guess one other thing to talk about is just the prop combinations again, and this is really another area where it's use your imagination, look at what's available, scroll through the list a bit. It shows a little preview for all the props that you have available. Make sure there's no other gameplay impact for some of them, because it is easy to see something that looks cool, build something with it, and then realize, oh, this is actually a functioning space station that is now shooting at me. So You don't want that. But you can set the rotation on these however you want. You can set the height on them however you want. So if you want this floating up a bit, and then you maybe get some props urban, maybe there will be something we want in here. And let's say you wanted it held up by a windmill. I believe this windmill was from Legacy of War, so another mod prop. But let's say, for whatever reason, in your world, landing pads are held up by windmills. You can do that. And that's where this freighter is now going to be.
Sounds legitimate to me.
Clearly this is a bad pilot, so they're going to have landed their freighter upside down. Remember, we're thinking of stories. Upside down, crashed in, bam. So let your imagination run wild.
And don't forget to add the sensor array.
Otherwise, I won't play the map. Yeah, it's true. It's in Rogue's contract that if there's no sensor array on a map, I just won't play it.
And that's why you lose.
So, I guess the last bit to talk about before getting it, I do want to do a quick bit on bridges at the end, but the last bit we want to talk about here will probably be markers. Is there anything else you guys want to jump to other than markers and bridges?
Just the readability of the map as well. Texturing or painting down paths to make sure. If you've got a giant open map, it's good to paint down pathways.
Mm-hmm. So make it clear what area each area is supposed to be. It can seem fun to have giant sprawling emptiness sometimes, but usually that gets old quickly. So
you can only make so many ice and desert planets that look the same.
Yeah, it's like one example on this is like the map.
Uncentralized and messy battles for gameplay, where you end up hunting down units on a plane rather than actually fighting through something, which is definitely an issue with a fair amount of Forces of Corruption maps.
Mutalanced.
Like actually finding and engaging the enemy on Hypori is not fun.
Fuck Hypori, fuck Mutalanced. I like Seleucami. Seleucami is a good map.
Hypori, we ended up just splitting the map in two.
Multiple sections.
Camino's a good one. There were some really good maps in Forces of Corruption, and there were 2 or 3 really, really, really bad ones.
Mandalore.
Mandalore looks good,
Mandalore, but it's too big.
Yeah, but on the readability front, like you can kind of see an example of that here. You have this path that leads down for the main areas you want to go to, but you have this section which you can go into, and there's usually something capturable here, but it doesn't have the path there, so it does communicate the whole, this is an extra side quest, that kind of stuff. But yeah, so one thing I did forget to mention that I do want to go into a bit is weather. So this is a huge part of making the game look good. So you can see here, like the texturing all looks good, the prop placement all looks good, but with just a default clear environment, there's not even a sky, or there's no sky dome. The water looks weird. This is why environment sets are really good. So you have like the fog settings, you have the bloom settings, you have all the light settings. It's very complex. Like there's a lot of options you have with it. It's not super complex to just do a basic one, but Valerie and Rogue have worked together kind of doing a lot of environment sets for the mod, and I believe we actually shipped those in the files. We have a folder load, so I'm pretty sure they're in the release version as well. If not, I should include them. But we have art, nature sets, and we have some for land, some for space, but all these that we use here, that kind of just bring everything up a level. They're all there. There's a nice light there.
And you can add, I think, as many as you want. And every time you load into a map in game, it'll be a different.
Yeah. So you can have some rainy ones, you can have some nighttime ones, you can have some early morning ones, you can have Naboo Autumn, my favorite Naboo season. But yeah, there's objects here. So the next important point, the last main important point, is markers. We already talked about attacker entry position, goes on a reinforcement cap or a reinforcement point. You want to set that to neutral, and then it'll determine the owner based on being right under it.
On top of that, with the attacker entry zone, the way the flag is pointed is the way that your troops and units will be landing every landing zone.
Yeah, and that's especially important for space, but you want to have them pointed kind of towards the path you're going to be going on. But it's a bit more difficult with land because you do go around in a circle, and then it'll be like facing weirdly when you're up here.
You got to make a sacrifice sometimes.
Yeah, you got to figure out which one's going to be the most important for it. But let's just drop down more of them there. We already talked about the in-base structure positions. So let's just plop down, let's say, usually you want to do as many as you can reasonably fit so that there's a variety of options, but I'm just going to do 3 here or 4. So you want to make sure they're on flat ground as well. We have a few maps, especially older ones, where we've like built them into the terrain, but that can be problematic because like you're building it in around this guy, but then you end up with a barracks. And
it's completely underground.
Yeah. Then you have the in-game bombing run marker. You want to put this somewhere, but it's not really important where it is. I usually drop it on one of the edges because the way the game determines where the bombing runs are coming from anyways is based on where you place your thing in game, but you need that or else it will crash. There's land defender retreat marker, which is where they're going to try to run to. Katana fleet opponents is not important for ground battles. Outbase special structure position. This is usually where stuff like the hypervelocity gun will want to spawn at. But it's also a marker position people can use to play stuff on. Usually structures can overflow from these onto these if there's not enough, and vice versa. Pirate command station, you usually want to put one. That's not something that you need for maps made for most mods, but if you're making for the base game, it's still good to have it. So we'll just drop that in there. Pirate shield structure position, you want this to cover the base. Power generator structure position, this is, as you can probably tell, the position of the power generator structure that gets put in when you have a base shield or turbo lasers. I'll just drop it there. That's a bad place for it. Don't put it there because it's dead. But if you wanted to put it there and had turbo lasers, you can put one of the turbo laser spawn positions here. And this is basically where the game is going to put all the turbo laser structures if you build the galactic turbo laser defenses. So it'll put one at each of these markers, each of these poorly positioned markers. But there's like this platform that has it there. You want to angle it appropriately. Let's say you wanted one here, one here. You wanted each Obi-Wan to feel like they had one, so you can just drop them on the Obi-Wans. Hello there. For Empire War Expanded, the victory point condition, if you just plop this bad boy on a map, the thing starts itself. There's also the shield gen position marker. Sorry, I'm kind of rushing through these, but there. If you're making a map while watching this and you need to pause, then do that. But I won't go anywhere. But yeah, the shield. Where the fuck is it? Is it still in the game, Jack?
It is.
It's still in there.
Base
should
shield.
be towards the top of the markers section.
Yeah, just found it. Because we kind of changed how that works for Empower Expanded, so there's different stuff now. But
it doesn't show the actual shield. If you load in there's a generator that actually has the shield down. So if you want to make sure your structures are inside of the shield where you place it, you can plop down one that actually shows the shield and then down your marker.
Like if you place the build pad version of it, it'll show the radius.
Yeah.
Here we go. U-ground base shield, so you can see the coverage on that. Don't actually place that because that's bad. But yeah, so that's the basics of the markers. Those are, I believe, all the ones that you need for it to work. We covered.
There's also the defending forces position.
Right, and garrison.
To have your garrison.
Cover that.
Yeah. I think at least 8 defending forces and 2 or 3 garrisons.
Yeah, so garrisons generally want to do that. Defending forces positions. And again, the facing does matter. But
Jack also mentioned checking out the AI tab for a moment. Just to
right, cool.
Auto-generate.
So this is where the game kind of tells the AI what each area is all about. Generally, you can just automatically generate these, and then the AI will have at least some idea of how to play on the map. Usually, you won't do any manual editing to it, but
some maps that aren't like a complete square or have like an extra terrain off the edge past the yellow boundary will cause the AI to not generate past a certain point, so it'll just be grayed out. You can just fill it in with a custom color yourself, so they have an idea of what's there.
Yeah.
Even choke points too. If you've got a narrow canyon, you can paint that and tell the AI that this is a defending point or a choke point.
I lost my mouse. Oh, there it is. This screen is too big. But yeah, so that's most of what you need to get a map just functioning in Galactic Conquest. Hopefully there's been some useful tips on aesthetics there. The last thing I do want to talk about before we end the stream, and we're actually a lot closer to our goal than I thought we'd be, so that's nice. But bridges. You can't really do a bridge the way you'd think you'd do a bridge.
Yes.
Yeah, bridges are a pain. You kind of have to fake them, because like you can see here, these are bridges that you can see under. But this is all done with props and a special texture called hole, or a setting on the texture is called hole. So usually if you want to do a bridge, I'm going to quickly jump into a new fresh map after this auto saves. But first I'll just show how these work. But if you move these away, all these carefully laid props, you'll see that there is just a literal hole in the map vertically from where the bridge edges are. So the way you do that is save changes tutorial. Yes, why not? We're not actually using this.
We're going to put in Fall of the Republic next update.
No maps were harmed in the making of this tutorial. So I'm just going to say all that's true. And let's say we have a shitty river at 20 below. We'll lower the height as well. Actually, this should really be much lower. Minus 100. We'll do this pretty big. This will not be pretty. But this is going to be our bridge. We want this to be a bridge with some water under it, as bridges so often have, or a highway. It's nothing wrong with that. Water table will probably drop a little bit so you can see better what's going on. But yeah, so we want this to be a nice concrete bridge.
This is our new Magira map.
Okay, so Arctic. Nice concrete bridge. Lovely. Delicious. Bam. Probably do hard edge for that, so it's easier to see. And then we want to do, just in a blank spot, we can do hard edge and hole. Or we're probably going to line it with props, so maybe not hard edge. Texture scale a little bit lower, but you're just painting a hole in the terrain. Beautiful, just absolutely gorgeous right there. That is what I like to see. Then you're going to go to passability, and you do the passability the same way that you normally would. You don't want them on the wall, so that's all steep. Just, again, gross as possible, but just for purposes of demonstration. You can see the terrain is still there, even though it's painted with a hole. It's just gone.
Yeah, you really want to have a straight bridge when you do this process.
Yeah.
It
You
really
wouldn't want to
stands
do this. But
This is beautiful, don't get me wrong.
no, you don't want this. I don't want to give the impression that you want this, because you don't. Then there's either like walls or any kind of siding that you want to use. I think temperate has better ones for that.
Even rock walls, rock wall props.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the cliff. Actually, that would be an Arctic because it's. I'm looking for the snowy one, anyways.
Yeah, it would be an Arctic.
I haven't made a map in so long. Here we go. So let's just say we wanted to use this one. We drop it in behind there. Adjust the position just enough. And you'd want to texture in around the wall or around the rocks just to make it look more natural. You'd want to place some other props. You need to find a way to block out the fact that there is a hole there that isn't going to have water. And so that's just like the start of the process. And at the end, we have one we made earlier.
Yeah, it's one of the more difficult processes of map making.
You eventually get to that. And I kind of did something similar with the Bastion map, where it wasn't a bridge per se, it was a raised platform, but I believe it's still just called Bastion. Yes. So you can see he used the walls there, and then some buildings, and I did a kind of similar thing here where I had the base be a raised platform. I filled in the bottom with props there, did the walls around to hide the fact that this is just a thin plane, and had some pipes coming out with the water. This is all to hide the fact that there's no actual water under it, and you try to texture it in, you try to prop it in, so maybe throw in some extra rocks there that are not just the mountain props if you're doing a smaller bridge. I believe this one has a similar bridge on the other side. So you have a lot of options with that kind of stuff, but you can't just do like a straight add some terrain on top of other terrain, unfortunately.
Yeah. And the cool part about the hole, though, is that you can make a map that looks like it's floating in the air, like Bespin. Actually, if you load up Jameis, that's a good example. It's right there in the stream maps folder.
Cool.
It looks like it's floating around, like the Corellia map that was done. Same thing. So you paint most of the map except the areas you're going to be fighting on with the whole texture.
Yeah. Then there's a lot of use of extra props to make the terrain here, or terrain. So, yeah. I think that the ISD construction props are still using the old ISD model, so we need to.
I believe so, and they need to get taken out, or at least make a separate version of the map for Fall of the Republic.
Mhm.
I mean, they're technically not anachronistic. Technically.
That's true.
But yeah,
Considering
so
it's Tour to Warfare is 21 BBY, and Clone Wars episode guides 21 BBY intro dates for limited production. Yay.
Yep, the first experimental ISDs built at Jameis. But you can see like there's some extra railings that were done here with these. These guys are really tedious to place, but that's mapping. It's tedious, but you can get some cool results out of it. Just be patient, experiment. Don't be locked into what you think the intended purpose of things are, and that's where you usually get the best results.
Correct.
So, Rogue, how long would you say you usually spend on a map, start to finish?
This map was 16 hours, 16, and there's barely any terrain to work on. It's just a lot of placing the props themselves. The map that we were working on originally here, that was about that was 12 hours. So you can look forward to spending about 10 to 16 hours on a decent map.
And if you want to make a really bad map, you could probably do it in 2.
Easily.
But yeah, so I think that's going to do it for our tutorial here. Again, I'm going to make a video showing how to install the map editor and deal with some of the problems related to that. Also get the map asset or some mod assets in into the map editor so that you can use things you actually want to use. But did that stop recording the terrain editor? It did. That's epic. But yeah, so thanks for joining me, guys. Thank you, Rogue, Nolan, and Jacked for sharing your expertise, opinions, some laughs, and
Thank you.
yeah.
Most of what I would discuss would be design related, which we didn't really get too much into.
Yeah,
So.
I'm thinking at some point again, like the Yaga Minor map was something that I started on a series of streams, so I might try that again. And maybe we'll get into a bit more of like the specific applications. But hopefully some people found this useful. Hopefully some people are inspired to join a mod team or just make their own skirmish maps, which we didn't really talk about. But you'll figure there when you install the map editor, there's some documentation that shows the markers you need. But hopefully this is a good starting point for people. Any last thoughts before we go?
Just feel free to join the Corey Lewis's Discord and message one of us if you have any questions, because there are a lot of questions.
Yeah. So there's a link to that in the description. There's also a link to the map editor in the description if you want to play around with stuff. If you do make a map and you want to get it in game, I'll just show you quickly what that would actually look like, because I think that might be something people would be interested in just quickly. So I'm going to do this in one of our mods. So it'll apply to everything, but if you just go into whatever mod you're going to be editing, I assume you have a mod installed that you're modifying. If you want to do it for the base game, that's slightly more complicated because you have to make a mods folder. But go to Data, XML, then Planets. We have 3 Planets XMLs. We have Planets, Planets 2, and Planets 3, but either way, ours are organized alphabetically that way. But let's say I made a new map for Argyle that I wanted to use. You just go into this file. Land tactical map is going to be what you're looking for. Planet name, make sure you're editing the right planet. And then you just change whatever.ted to whatever you named your map.ted. So let's say we wanted to save this. We're going to do save as into data, art, maps, and map.ted. Then that's all you need to do. You'll be invading your favorite planets in no time.
Another thing with that is when you add a new map, make sure that the land slot tag for the build slot amount isn't more than what the slots are on the map. Otherwise, you'll have structures double stacking on the markers.
Yes, so that would be here, special structures land. So I think we placed 5 markers total between the 4 in base and 1 out base. So technically we could support up to 5. You don't need to have it be maxed out, but that's what it can support. But thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for joining me, team. Good job, team. Go team. Yeah. Good night.
Go team.